Clinton critics suspecting she has something to hide as her legal team confesses she not only destroyed tens of thousands of emails while she was under congressional investigation, but that server everyone's been talking about, she wiped it clean. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. There is new fallout tonight in the email scandal involving the woman expected to be the Democrats' nominee for president. Hillary Clinton's lawyer has now responded in writing to a congressional request that she turn over her private email server to a neutral third party who could determine whether or not all of her work emails, the public's documents, have indeed been turned over to investigators and to the State Department. Her legal team flatly ruling that out, saying turning over the server is entirely pointless because she already wiped it clean. Lawyers writing, quote, there are no HDR22, that's her emails from Secretary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State on the server for any review, even if such review were appropriate or legally authorized. Of course, this does nothing to answer the biggest questions, and in fact, it creates many more questions. Did Mrs. Clinton turn over all of her official documents? Did any of Mrs. Clinton's top aides use her private server also? Where are their documents? Where are they? She has yet to answer that to anybody. And were any laws broken in this effort to forever erase any trace of these thousands of emails while she was under congressional investigation? Judge Andrew Napolitano is Fox News senior judicial analyst. So they're gone. She said that she deleted her personal emails at her presser, but now her lawyer has come out and said, and as for that server, which normally would have a record of deleted emails, he says It has been wiped clean. There is no remaining documentation and nothing on the server that would show us what happened to them. That's what he claims.
Well, technically, we don't know if it's been wiped clean, but let's take his argument at its face value that they wiped it clean. The question is, when did they do it? She was subject to a letter sent to her by Congressman Chaffetz, chairman of a House committee, in September 2012, while she was still the Secretary of State, demanding all records and documents reflecting Benghazi. She was then
that would have encompassed emails. There's no question.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he used the word records, and he used the word records in the same definition that the statute does, which includes electronic records.
Exactly. The law is very clear that records includes emails.
That's a letter which puts a lawyer, Mrs. Clinton, and her staff
on notice.
Mills, I forget her first name. Cheryl Mills was her chief.
Uma Abedin.
Correct. They're all lawyers. Puts them on notice that they have to preserve the documents. 11 months later, in August of 2013, she's out of office. John Kerry is now in. The State Department receives 2 subpoenas from Congressman Darrell Issa. Not letters, subpoenas, essentially asking for the same thing. 2015 begins and a new Congress starts. So she's going to say that she no longer had the obligation in 2015 to comply with letters or subpoenas served in 2012,
That's ridiculous.
13, or 14. It depends on when she wiped the server clean.
But wait, before you get to that, she didn't do anything wrong if, as her lawyer claims, I mean, other than what we've already discussed.
Right.
But she, in deleting those emails, if they really were all personal emails.
She was wrong to delete anything, Megyn, because the statute regulating this, the Public Records Act of 1950, as amended in her husband's years in 1995, requires that the government decide what is personal and what's not personal.
But normally in practice, the way it works is that the employee does it, and then upon leaving the State Department, even if you're the secretary, you sit down with the records administrator and you say, these are the documents, right? These are the ones I want to take with me because I think they're personal. These are the ones that are yours that I created as secretary. And then that records keeper is supposed to do an independent review and say, I agree or don't agree, but there's a joint review. But didn't happen as far as we know.
She disabled the record keeper from doing it because she was the record keeper. Look, she was on notice from September of 2012 to preserve those records. Sometime between September of 2012 and March 2015, she had the records destroyed. That is either a federal crime or it's a disbarable offense for a lawyer.
I think if she destroyed the people's documents, she's in a lot of trouble. That could be obstruction. But if she only destroyed, as she claims to the lawyer, oh, it was my emails about Chelsea, right? It was my emails about the wedding and so on. It may not be an obstruction charge, but it still goes to concealment. It raises the argument of concealment. She was the Secretary of State. She knew that there was a congressional investigation demanding all documents with respect to Benghazi, and she didn't so much as hit print.
She basically told the congressional investigators what they could do with their letters and with their subpoenas. She could have taught Richard Nixon a lesson. She utterly, totally, and completely frustrated their lawful ability to get their hands on her records, which they have a right and a duty and an obligation to examine.
And can I tell you the real capper here? That, you've been talking about whether there was anything inside those emails that was sensitive or classified, and her people say, no, it was fine for them to be on her private server, nothing to worry about. Well, now that Congress is saying, give them to us, turn them over to us, her lawyer writes back, well, they may have sensitive diplomatic efforts reflected in them. We can't turn them over without approval of the state because there may be a privilege, privacy, or other reason why you can't. Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't know how
it's okay to have them on the home server because there's nothing there.
I really don't know how they could make both arguments. Look, she is on such thin ice with respect to obstruction of justice and destruction of government records. If the government has any concept of the rule of law, they prosecute her for this. This is 10 times what David Petraeus is accused of having doing.
Judge, great to see you.
Good to be with you.
Joining me now with more, Mark Thiessen, a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and a Fox News contributor. Mark, I mean, the gall of... don't worry. They were on my home server, which was protected by Secret Service, which is totally meaningless. It's not like when they hack you, they go through the Secret Service. They go through the internet, right? They go through the computer. But now, in response to the Congress that wants the documents, well, there may be stuff on there that's privileged or private or sensitive, so you can't have them right away.
It's amazing. I think Reince Priebus was exactly right when he said even Nixon didn't destroy the tapes. I mean, the brazenness of what she's done. I mean, think about it. Starting with having a private server for her official emails to begin with, first Secretary of State ever to do that, then withholding the official emails for 2 years while there were congressional investigations and press FOIA requests from the media to search those emails and not even giving them to the State Department, then destroying 30,000 of them unilaterally, deciding what was private and what wasn't, and then wiping the server clean. I mean, does this sound like the behavior of somebody who has nothing to hide?
Right, because, okay, so she deleted the emails, and then they go on to say that therefore no emails, this is from her lawyer, no emails from her entire tenure as Secretary of State reside on the server anymore, nor on any backup system associated with the server. Now, I want to know what that means. There's still a lot of questions. What did she do to wipe the server clean? And is it really clean? And if it is or if it isn't, why can't we still let the third party take a look just to see what's really been wiped clean and what hasn't?
Because they're afraid that if you allow a third party to look at it, lo and behold, they might be able to recover them. And then all the stuff that she doesn't want to come out will come out. She's clearly hiding something. There's no one goes through all of these steps that you're describing when they have nothing to hide. I mean, if this is just her yoga schedule and just her daughter's wedding, no one goes to that much trouble to hide their yoga schedule.
Mm-hmm. And that leads to the big question in all of this. What's in the emails? And if she really did delete them and wipe the server clean, then let's have Huma Abedin's emails. Let's have Cheryl Mills, her chief of staff's emails. Let's have Philippe Reines, the other guy, Jake Sullivan, all of her top people. Where are their emails? Why haven't we seen those?
Yeah, we need all of those things. But what I really think is really interesting here is the nexus between the email scandal and the Clinton Foundation scandal. I think that's really what this might be about.
Explain that.
Is that the Washington Post reported that the Clinton Foundation took millions of dollars in contributions from foreign governments while she was Secretary of State, plus millions of dollars of contributions from crony corporations of foreign governments tied to those governments while she was Secretary of State, countries that had business in front of the State Department. And so the really interesting question is, when she's deciding what's a private email, what's an official email, were any of those emails that she destroyed related to foreign donations to the Clinton Foundation? Because the interesting question is, could that establish a timeline between official decisions and donations that were accepted by the Clinton Foundation from foreign governments and crony corporations? The nexus between these two scandals is really where I think this could possibly get big.
When I looked at her lawyer's letter, I saw him phrase it in terms of she only had the obligation to turn over documents, I think he said, that were performed in furtherance of State Department business. That's what he considers a State Department record. And you and I both know that Hillary Clinton's sitting there looking at if she had any correspondence about the Clinton Foundation interpretation, and some would say, well, that wasn't in furtherance. I mean, he defined it so narrowly in terms of what he thought they needed to produce. It really raises the question of what got deleted, and should we trust somebody who behaves this way to make these determinations without any independent review when the stakes are this high? Mark, it's good to see you.
Thanks, Megan.